Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. The BBC were forced to correct a claim about babies dying in Gaza made on their Radio 4's Today programme earlier this week. UN humanitarian chief Tom Fletcher claimed on the show that 14,000 babies will die in Gaza in 48 hours if humanitarian aid did not reach the Strip. But it was later corrected, and this figure instead referred to children at risk of severe malnutrition between April 2025 and March 2026. Mr Fletcher's comments were repeated across global media channels, and he was cited in the House of Commons by 13 MPs during a debate on Tuesday. The next day, 2 employees of the Israeli embassy in Washington were murdered attending a humanitarian event at the Jewish Museum by a man shouting, "Free Palestine." Joining me now to discuss the connection is broadcaster and journalist Jonathan Sacerdoti. Jonathan, welcome to the show. Jonathan, you wrote a piece this week that I think resonated with many Jewish people, not just in the UK, but across the West. Would you mind just telling us the basic arguments of it?
Sure. I think that what we saw this week with that ridiculous claim of 14,000 babies dying in the next 2 days if something didn't happen, that alone should have collapsed under the weight of its own absurdity as a statistic. Coming from the UN, people treated it like it was gospel, and of course they had to roll it back. It was in fact meant to be covering a year. It was also from a body that's made mistakes in the past. Well,
can I just say something? They put out these claims before, over the last few years, and they've always turned out to be just lies.
Exactly. And so I think that given the where this claim came from in the first place, we should have had some doubt. But of course, many in the media didn't. And as you said, in Parliament, it was mentioned 13 times, I think, in the Commons during the debate. We heard David Lammy introduce new policies towards Israel, suspending talks for a trade deal with Israel, which had been ongoing. And he said that that was because of Israel's actions. So really, this sort of false claim has been absorbed and taken on by so many people because they've been primed to believe these dreadful, sinister things about Israel, the Jewish state. The idea that Jews kill babies, that this is something that they're doing through some sort of bloodlust, is, I think, something which dates back hundreds or thousands of years. And that is why it's so depressing to see that even in our modern era, people are spreading lies like this, and it's then having this knock-on effect. It's having this influence that means that apparently ordinary people, like this man in Washington, D.C., who shot 2 people coming out of the Jewish museum there, they probably believe they're doing something akin to shooting Nazis, something akin to getting rid of the world's most evil people, because there's this sort of agenda that's going on where lies are told, they're spread, they're believed credulously by politicians, the media, and therefore people on the street. And it's a perfect storm. It means that right now Jewish people around this country and around the world are feeling incredibly afraid for their futures. They're feeling that the society around them has really got this animosity that's coming to the surface. It's unveiled, unbridled now, to the extent that people really feel they need to keep their heads down, just keep quiet, just keep ploughing through. And to be specific about what that means, many Jewish people, I mean, I'm sure contact you as they do me, and they say that their children in schools are being bullied with anti-Semitic abuse, and the school isn't doing anything about it. I know several parents who've had to take their children out of schools because of this sort of problem. Another couple of parents that I spoke to recently said on their school's Culture Day, when children are encouraged to come in dressed in a way that reflects their background and culture, their heritage, they were terrified to put their child in any kind of clothing that would indicate they were Jewish because of the treatment they knew they would get in the school. And all of these sorts of small, apparently intangible things actually all add up for Jewish people to the extent that they're really quite afraid now.
Well, this is it. It feels like this week was the crossing of the Rubicon of Jew hate. And it feels like Jewish people have been saying for a while now, certainly since the reaction to October 7th, and seeing the reaction from the progressive left, I guess you could call them, and they had the justification of the murder of Jews. It feels like this has spread into the West now in a very real way. This kind of this rhetoric that we've seen on these, and they're hate marches, and they hide behind this kind of oh no, we're just calling for peace and, you know, globalize the Intifada. And Jews have said no. This is what the assassination of 2 Jews outside of a humanitarian event is exactly that. That is the globalization of the Intifada, and I feel that there's For personally, there's just a frustration and an anger now, because it's like we've been saying this the whole time and people haven't been paying attention.
Well, unfortunately, I think that the Jewish experience throughout history has been one of being very aware, looking out for persecution and discrimination against us. And
This is a couple, by the way, who were murdered this week.
Absolutely. And I mean, really murdered because of their association with Israel as they came out of a Jewish museum in the capital city of the free world.
Ironically, to raise money for humanitarian aid into Gaza.
And I think that what I was trying to say in my column this week was that we always say never again about what happened to the Jews during the Holocaust, during Nazi Germany. And yet people seem to say every time Jews collectively point out that something is going very wrong in society's treatment of them, that no, they're exaggerating. This isn't as bad as 1930s Germany. Of course it isn't. The point is that the Holocaust didn't start with the gas chambers. It started with society not admitting Jews into shops. Something we've seen now, Zionists. We've seen that it involved society with ordinary people turning against their neighbours, those who they would once have walked past in the street with no problems. They would report on them, they would persecute them themselves. And more with these examples, like those I gave about the school, or a man who woke up in hospital, a patient, to find Palestine stickers around his bed, unsure whether they were there to single him out to other staff in the room as a Jew. These sorts of little things are really what gets the hair up on the back of our necks, because we're a people who've been through this before, collectively, and we're very aware of what it looks like when society starts not only to turn on us, but other parts of society start to tolerate it, to keep quiet. So really what I was hoping was to raise awareness, not just among Jewish people, but among the wider public, so that people can actually stand up against this. It feels very uncomfortable for us Brits to speak out when something's going on around us in public or in society, but I think it's essential, because what tragically happened with that killing in the States is really, I'm afraid, the sort of thing that we fear seeing more of if this is just left unchecked.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Journalist Jonathan Sacerdoti.